For most Americans, the coronavirus became real in March 2020. But I will always think of it as beginning earlier, in January, because that's when paralyzing fear unexpectedly entered my life and took up what feels like permanent residence in my psyche. I was in New York City, visiting with friends and meeting with my publisher, when my cell rang at 3 a.m. Never a good sign. It was my older daughter, Emily. "Dad," she said, her voice shaking, "can you come home?" She was calling from the emergency room at Maine Medical Center in Portland, where her little boy, Henry, then 7, my grandson, was in critical condition. 45 minutes earlier, he had appeared at his parents' bedside demanding his inhaler. He'd taken a blast before going to bed, so it was too soon for another. Groggy with sleep, Emily and her husband Steve might have told him to go back to bed, that he could have another hit first thing in the morning. There are times when every parent has to make critical decisions without understanding in the moment that they are, in fact, critical. Probably they were still on high alert because Henry was getting over a case of the flu. No small thing for a kid with asthma. What they didn't know was that while they were asleep, he'd had a violent coughing fit and collapsed a lung. Had they just sent him back to bed, he might have died. I wasn't the only one who was away at the time. Barbara, my wife, was in Arizona visiting family. My younger daughter, Kate, and her husband, Tom, both of whom also live in Portland, happened to be in New York as well, though they had an early flight home that morning. I was supposed to be in town for a couple more days, but after hanging up with Emily, I called the airline and booked the last seat on the same flight Kate and Tom were on. Then called Barbara so she could start making arrangements to return home as well. The last thing I tossed into my suitcase before checking out of my hotel was the small plastic bottle of nasal spray I had set on the nightstand when I checked in. There's another on my bedside table at home, and a spare in the medicine cabinet. Wherever I am, there's always one nearby in case I wake up with clogged nasal passages. Otherwise, I would have to get dressed and search out an all-night pharmacy. Whoa, you're thinking, seriously? Seriously. Perhaps because I watched my grandfather die of emphysema, the idea of death by asphyxiation is enough to send me into a blind, flop-sweat panic. That's why I wouldn't dream of going anywhere without nasal spray in my travel kit, and why, no matter where I am, there's always one on the nightstand where I can find it in the dark. The thought of Henry, a child, not being able to breathe and unable to understand why, left me weak in the knees with terror.